If you talk to SaaS founders right now, most are operating under a sense of panic regarding customer acquisition costs. They are navigating 2026 based on a benchmark of $2 in marketing spend for every $1 of new revenue, or bracing for a widely quoted average cost of $1,200 per customer. That $1,200 figure traces back to agency estimates with no published methodology. With no disclosed sample size or calculation method, there is no way to verify if it represents the broad market or a specific niche, making it unreliable for comparison. For a verified baseline, we have to look at the current median, $1.63 of sales and marketing spend for every dollar of new recurring revenue. This figure is drawn from results across 342 companies, providing a more transparent anchor for 2026. This ratio dropped from $2 down to $1.63 over the last year, a 19% improvement. At the same time, the median payback period shortened to 16 months, which looks like a massive efficiency gain on the surface. While these metrics are improving, the data suggests this isn't because acquiring customers got easier. It is a statistical illusion masking a market that is becoming structurally weaker. To see what is actually happening, we have to look at the math. Customer acquisition cost is a ratio. Your sales and marketing spend sits on top as the numerator, divided by your new annual recurring revenue as the denominator. The current efficiency gains are driven by companies slashing the numerator. Marketing spend fell from 37% to 35% of revenue, which forces the resulting ratio to look better even if the underlying business hasn't changed. But shrinking that top number has a direct impact on the bottom. As companies cut spend, the median industry growth rate immediately slowed, falling from 26% down to 20%. This creates a hidden crisis in retention. Gross revenue retention dropped to 84%, which means 16% of a company's revenue base vanishes every year before any new growth can even happen. To compensate for this churn, companies are quietly using expansion revenue from existing customers to bridge the gap left by slower new logo acquisition. By focusing only on the numerator, a company can report an improving CAC ratio on a spreadsheet, while the business loses its structural strength. Before changing your budget based on a benchmark, you need to run your metrics through a 4-part diagnostic called the comparability check. First, distinguish between new logo CAC and blended CAC. Mixing these two accounts for the massive gap between a $1.63 and a $1.30 ratio, and it is the most common error in these comparisons. Second, check if your spend is lagged. The revenue closing this quarter was likely generated by marketing dollars committed months ago. Matching current spend to current revenue will always understate your true cost. Third, factor in founder time. If you're the primary sales team and aren't including the cost of your own labor, your CAC ratio doesn't reflect the reality of scaling a team. Finally, align your segment. Factors like your average contract value and your specific revenue band move the benchmark more than any year-over-year industry trend. If your numbers fail any of these 4 checks, your problem is an accounting mismatch, not a performance failure. In that case, cutting the budget is the wrong response. The alternative is to focus on the denominator. Instead of cutting the investment at the top, you produce more revenue from the same spend by growing the bottom half of the equation. One way to expand that denominator is to fund customer expansion as a dedicated revenue function with its own quota, rather than leaving it as a secondary task for customer success. The efficiency here is clear. It costs roughly 80 cents to generate a dollar of new revenue from an existing customer, compared to $1.63 to acquire a new logo. Another shift involves fixing gross retention. Every percentage point of revenue you recover reduces the volume of new logos you need to find just to maintain your current size. Prioritizing the existing customer base builds a stable revenue foundation. This makes every dollar you eventually spend on new acquisition more effective because you aren't fighting against a leaking bucket. This also involves looking at pricing architecture, specifically favoring usage-based models over flat, seat-based systems. Usage-based pricing shows a 108% median net revenue retention, compared to 98% for seat-based models. Over several years, that 10-point gap creates a significant difference in total revenue. Finally, measurement must shift to the account level. As this maze represents, the modern buying journey now averages 281 days from the first ad impression to a closed deal, involving an average of 10 different stakeholders. With AI search answering more queries directly, traditional click-based attribution is becoming less accurate. If you judge a channel on a 30-day window, you will systematically misprice its value. These structural changes to pricing and retention take 2 to 4 quarters to show up in your data. This is why many founders postpone them in favor of quick budget cuts that move the numbers faster but solve less. The companies finding success in 2026 are not the ones manipulating their spreadsheets to look efficient on paper. They are the ones doing the unglamorous structural work required to make their revenue resilient.